Commander Zara pulled her thick green cloak tighter around her reptilian shoulders as the cold wind swept across the dead planet's surface. Her yellow eyes scanned the ruins of what had once been a great city. Broken buildings reached toward the gray sky like broken teeth. This world had been silent for 1,000 years. "Commander, we found something," called out her assistant, Lieutenant Crix. He was young for a Vorthok, his scales still bright green instead of the darker shade. That came with age. He held up a small metal object, covered in strange symbols. Zara took the object and studied it carefully. The metal was unlike anything in the galaxy. It felt warm to the touch, even after sitting in the cold ruins for centuries. The symbols were familiar yet different from anything in their records. "What does it say?" Crix asked, his voice filled with curiosity. "It's from the humans," Zara said quietly. "The species that used to live here." Crix looked confused. "Humans? But they destroyed themselves long ago." "Everyone knows that story," Zara nodded slowly. The history books were clear. 1,000 years ago, the Galactic Federation had detected signs of a primitive species on this world. They called themselves humans. By the time the Federation arrived to make contact, the humans were gone. Their cities were empty, their technology was primitive. The Federation assumed they had destroyed themselves in some terrible war. "Look at this," Zara said, pointing to the metal object. "This is not primitive technology. This metal is stronger than anything we have. These symbols are more complex than our most advanced computers." Far away, in the cold darkness between the stars, something stirred. Deep in the shadow of Jupiter's largest moon, a massive ship began to wake up. The ship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull seemed to shift and change like it was alive. Strange lights moved across its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Inside the ship, Captain Jake Morrison opened his eyes for the first time in 50 years. The cryogenic chamber around him hissed as it opened. Jake was tall and strong, with dark hair and blue eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. He looked no older than 30, but he had been alive for over 200 years. "Welcome back, Captain," said a soft voice. The ship's computer had been waiting for him to wake up. "All systems are working perfectly. The mission continues as planned." Jake sat up slowly, his body adjusting to being awake again. "How long?" "This time? 50 years, 2 months, and 16 days, the computer replied. "The galaxy has remained stable. The Federation continues to expand its control." Jake stood up and walked to the command center. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps, planet locations, and data about every world in the galaxy. He had been watching and learning for 1,000 years, taking breaks only to sleep in the frozen chambers. "Show me Earth, Jake," said Dot. The main screen lit up with an image of his home world. It looked dead and empty, just as they had left it. But Jake knew better. He smiled as he remembered the great plan. Lieutenant Amy Collins entered the command center, her red hair floating. In the low gravity, she was the ship's science officer, and like Jake, she had been alive for far longer than any human should be. Her green eyes sparkled with intelligence as she studied the data on the screens. "The Federation archaeological team is still on the surface," Amy reported. "They found one of our markers." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Which one?" "The library marker." "The one with the basic symbols," Jake laughed. "They think they're so smart. They find a piece of metal and think they understand us." Amy sat down at her station and began typing commands. The screens around them changed to show images of the Federation team on Earth's surface. Commander Zara and her team looked tiny and weak compared to the massive ruins around them. "They have no idea what really happened," Amy said. "They think we destroyed ourselves. That was the plan," Jake reminded her. "Let them think we were primitive. Let them think we were gone." The truth was very different. In the year 2149, human scientists had detected the approaching Vorthok invasion fleet. The aliens were still years away, but humans knew they were coming. Earth's leaders had made a hard choice. They would not fight a war they could not win. Instead, they would disappear. Project Exodus had been the largest secret in human history. Every man, woman, and child on Earth had been moved to massive ships hidden throughout the solar system. The cities were left empty but undamaged. All traces of advanced technology were removed or hidden. When the aliens arrived, they found what looked like a dead world, but humanity had not died. They had evolved. "Show me the colony reports," Jake ordered. The screens changed again. Now they showed dozens of star systems, each containing thriving human colonies. During their 1,000-year exile, humans had spread across distant galaxies. They had grown stronger, smarter, and more advanced than ever before. Amy pulled up a report from New Terra, one of the largest colonies. Population, 4 billion. Technology level, quantum manipulation achieved. Military strength, beyond measurement. Another screen showed New Eden, a world where humans had learned to control their own genetics. The people there lived for thousands of years and had abilities that would seem like magic to other species. "What about the Psi colony?" Jake asked. Amy smiled. "They say hello." Jake felt a warm feeling in his mind. The humans at the Psi colony had developed mental abilities that let them communicate across vast distances. They could move objects with their thoughts and see the future. To the rest of the galaxy, such things were impossible. "The Federation thinks they rule the galaxy," Amy said. "They have no idea what's coming." Jake walked to the main viewing window. Outside, he could see Jupiter's swirling clouds and its many moons. Somewhere out there, hidden in the darkness, were thousands of human ships. Each one was more advanced than anything the Federation had ever built. "They enslaved the Thylorians last month," Amy reported. "The gentle people of Kepler 442 BR? Being forced to work in the mines." Jake's jaw tightened. "And the Zentari? Still controlling all trade routes. Any species that refuses to pay their taxes gets invaded." Jake had watched the galaxy for 1,000 years. He had seen the Federation grow from a small alliance into a massive empire. They ruled through fear and force. Smaller species were treated like slaves. Independent worlds were crushed. "It's time," Jake said quietly. Amy looked up from her station. "Time for what?" "Time to go home. Time to show them that humanity is not extinct." Amy's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back." Jake nodded. "The galaxy is suffering. The Federation has forgotten what it means to be free. They need to be reminded." He walked to the communication console and began entering commands. Across the galaxy, hidden human colonies would receive his message. The time for hiding was over. "Begin Phase 1, Jake announced. To the ship's computer. "Wake up the crew. Prepare the ship for departure." All around him, the ship began to change. Lights grew brighter. The hull started to shift and adapt. After 1,000 years of waiting, humanity was finally ready to return home on Earth's surface. Commander Zara felt a strange chill run down her spine. She looked up at the dark sky, as if expecting to see something there. But the stars looked the same as always. She had no idea that everything was about to change. The age of human exile was ending. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had not just survived. They had become something far more powerful than anyone could imagine. Jake Morrison smiled as he felt the ship's engines come to life. After 1,000 years of patience, it was time to remind the galaxy what humans could do when they set their minds to it. The return had begun. Dr. Lisa Park stood in the busy marketplace of Nexus Prime, watching thousands of alien creatures go about their daily lives. To everyone around her, she looked like a normal Zenfari female with blue skin and silver hair. But underneath the perfect holographic disguise, she was completely human. Lisa had been on this planet for 6 months, studying the Federation's capital world. The technology that hid her true appearance was beyond anything the aliens could imagine. Every cell in her body had been modified to project the false image. Even the most advanced scanners could not detect her real identity. She walked through the crowds, listening to conversations in dozens of alien languages. Her enhanced brain could understand them all instantly. The Federation had developed a universal translator long ago, but Lisa's abilities went far beyond that simple device. The taxes are too high again, complained the small creature with 4 arms. My family cannot afford to eat. Be quiet, hissed his companion, looking around nervously. The peacekeepers might hear you. Lisa watched as 2 tall Vorthic soldiers walked past. Their green scales gleamed in the artificial sunlight, and their yellow eyes scanned the crowd for any sign of trouble. The smaller aliens moved quickly. Out of their way, fear written on their faces. This was the reality of Federation rule. The strong dominated the weak. The rich grew richer while the poor starved. Lisa had seen it on dozens of worlds during her years of watching and waiting. Her wrist device vibrated softly. A message from home. Lisa found a quiet alley and activated the hidden communicator. Report, came the voice of Commander Ryan Scott. The situation is worse than we thought, Lisa whispered. The Federation has increased taxes on all Outer Rim worlds by 30%. 3 species have been enslaved in the past month alone. Ryan's voice was grim. We're seeing the same thing from our position. The Federation fleet is moving toward the Kepler system. Intelligence suggests they're planning another invasion. Lisa felt anger rise in her chest. The Kepler system was home to the Thylorians, one of the gentlest species in the galaxy. They were artists and philosophers who had never hurt anyone. The idea of them being enslaved made her sick. When do we act? She asked. Soon, Ryan replied. Admiral Sullivan is waking the colonies. The council meets tomorrow. Far from Nexus Prime, Commander Ryan Scott floated in the darkness of space. His ship, the Silent Watch, was invisible to all Federation sensors. The vessel was made of materials that bent light around them, making them completely undetectable. Ryan had been watching Federation military movements for 2 years. His team of 12 humans had documented every ship, every weapon, every strategy the aliens used. What they found was both encouraging and disturbing. They're weak, reported Lieutenant Tony Clark, the ship's weapons officer. Their technology hasn't improved in 300 years. They rely on brute force instead of innovation. Ryan nodded as he studied the data on his screen. The Federation had the largest military in the galaxy, but size was not everything. Their ships were slow and clumsy. Their weapons were powerful but predictable. Most importantly, they had grown lazy after centuries of easy victories. Show me the Vorthic flagship, Ryan ordered. The screen displayed a massive warship called the Dominator. It was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. To the Federation, it was the ultimate symbol of their power. Ryan smiled. Tony, how long would it take us to disable that ship? Tony ran some calculations on his computer. Without harming the crew, about 30 seconds. And if we wanted to destroy it completely? 5 seconds, maybe less. Ryan's smile grew wider. The Federation had no idea what they were dealing with. Human technology had advanced so far beyond theirs that it was like comparing a stone knife to a laser cannon. Sir, called out Sergeant Kim Walsh from the communications station, we're receiving a priority message from Admiral Sullivan. Ryan activated the secure channel. The image of Admiral Kate Sullivan appeared on his screen. She was a tall woman with gray hair and intelligent brown eyes. She had been one of the leaders of Project Exodus and had spent the last 1,000 years coordinating humanity's hidden colonies. Ryan, it's time to begin Phase 2, Sullivan said. We're activating all colonies. The return has begun. Ryan felt his heart race. After so many years of watching and waiting, they were finally going to act. What are your orders, Admiral? Continue. Monitoring Federation movements. We need to know where all their ships are when we make our move. And Ryan ... be careful. Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. The Admiral's image disappeared, leaving Ryan alone with his thoughts. He had been born in space on one of the colony ships during the Great Exodus. He had never seen Earth except in old pictures. But he felt a deep connection to the homeworld his people had been forced to leave. Across the galaxy, on a world called New Terra, millions of humans were receiving the same message. The time for hiding was over. Colony ships that had been disguised. As asteroids began to power up, Hidden bases on distant moons started preparing for war on New Eden. Dr. Martha Stone stood in her laboratory, looking at the results of 1,000 years of genetic research. The humans around her looked normal, but they were so much more. Their bodies were stronger, their minds faster, their lifespans extended far beyond what nature had intended. "The enhancement program is complete," Martha announced to her team. "Every human in the colonies now has the modifications." "We are ready." The modifications were incredible. Humans could now survive in the vacuum of space for hours. They could see in complete darkness. Their bones were stronger than steel. Their minds could process information at superhuman speeds, but the most important change was not physical. It was the development of what they called quantum consciousness. Humans could now manipulate matter at the molecular level using only their thoughts. They could phase through solid objects, become invisible, or even teleport short distances on the Psi colony, a world where humans had developed mental abilities. Commander Ben Hayes was preparing for something that had never been attempted before. He was going to contact every human in the galaxy at the same time. Ben sat in a meditation chamber, surrounded by crystals that amplified psychic energy. Around him, 100 other humans sat in similar positions. Together, they would send message across impossible distances. "Ready?" Ben asked. The others nodded. They closed their eyes and focused their minds. The crystals began to glow with a soft blue light. Suddenly, every human in the galaxy felt the same message in their minds. "The time has come. Humanity returns. Be ready." Back on the silent watch, Ryan Scott felt the psychic message and smiled. All around him, his crew members looked up from their stations with the same expression. They all knew what it meant. "Tony, prepare the ship for combat," Ryan ordered. "Kim, start monitoring all Federation communications. Something tells me things about to get very interesting." On Nexus Prime, Lisa Park felt the message too. She looked around the crowded marketplace with new eyes. Soon, these aliens would learn that humanity had not only survived, but had become something far beyond their understanding. She activated her communicator and sent a message to the human fleet. "Target confirmed. Federation leadership is all here. Ready for Phase 3? The response came immediately. "Understood. Operation Revelation begins in 72 hours. Lisa smiled as she walked through the crowd. In 3 days, the galaxy would change forever. The Federation's reign of terror was about to end. She looked up at the sky, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, thousands of human ships were moving into position. The Watchers were returning home, and they were bringing justice with them. The age of human hiding was over. The age of human power was about to begin. The peaceful world of Kepler 442b had never seen war. The Thylorians who lived there were gentle creatures who spent their days creating beautiful art and music. They had pale blue skin and large, kind eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. Their cities were works of art themselves, with flowing buildings that curved like music made solid. Today, though cities were burning, Elder Thizes stood on the balcony of the great library, watching Federation ships fill the sky like dark clouds. The Vorthak had come with their demands again. This time, they wanted half of all Thylorian children to work in the mines on distant worlds. It was a death sentence disguised as taxation. "We cannot pay," Thizes had told the Federation commander. "Our children are not property to be traded." The Federation's response had been swift and brutal. Plasma cannons lit up the sky as they targeted the city's power stations. Thylorian families ran through the streets, carrying their young ones to safety. Admiral Krex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fist. He was a massive Vorthak with dark green scales and scars covering his arms from 100 battles. His yellow eyes showed no mercy as he watched the city below. "Sir, the Thylorians are requesting to surrender," reported his communications officer. "Too late," Krex growled. "They chose to defy the Federation. Now they will serve as an example to other worlds." The Admiral was about to order the destruction of the Great Library when something impossible happened. A ship appeared in the sky above the city. Not flew into view, not dropped out of hyperspace. It simply appeared as if it had always been there. The ship was unlike anything in the galaxy. Its hull seemed to be made of living metal that shifted and changed like water. Strange patterns of light moved across its surface in ways that hurt to look at directly. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "What is that?" Krex demanded. His sensor officer's voice shook as he replied, "Sir, I'm not reading anything. According to our instruments, there's nothing there. But everyone could see it with their own eyes." The mysterious ship hung in the air above the burning city like a guardian angel. Inside the ship, Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge, looking down at the destruction below. Alex was tall and lean, with dark hair and gray eyes that seemed to see everything. He had been born on New Terra and had never seen Earth, but he felt the same anger that had driven his ancestors to the stars. "Maya, are you ready?" he asked. Engineer Maya Rodriguez nodded from her station. She was small but strong, with black hair and brown eyes that sparkled with intelligence. Her hands moved over controls that looked more like works of art than technology. "The ship is ready, Captain. All systems are at full power." Alex opened a communication channel to the Federation fleet. His voice was calm and clear as it reached every ship in the system. "This is Captain Alex Turner of the human vessel Redemption. I am ordering you to cease your attack on this world immediately." There was silence for a long moment. Then Admiral Krex's voice came through, filled with confusion and anger. "Human? That's impossible. Humans have been extinct for 1,000 years. Reports of our death have been greatly exaggerated," Alex replied. "You have 30 seconds to withdraw your forces." Krex laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the communication channel. "You think one ship can stand against my entire fleet? I have 100 warships here." "I only need one," Alex said simply. The Federation Admiral's response was to order his fleet to fire. 1,000 plasma cannons opened fire at once, filling the space around the human ship with deadly energy. Alex watched calmly as the weapons fire passed harmlessly through his ship. The Redemption had shifted its molecular structure, becoming temporarily non-solid. The plasma bolts passed through it like shooting at smoke. "Maya, it's your turn," Alex said. Maya smiled and placed her hands on the ship's quantum manipulation controls. The Redemption reached out with invisible forces, touching the Federation flagship at the atomic level on the Iron Fist. Admiral Krex watched in horror as his ship's weapons began to change. The plasma cannons that had been firing death moments before were now launching beautiful flowers into space. The missile tubes were shooting out colorful butterflies that fluttered harmlessly in the vacuum. "What's happening?" Krex roared. "Sir, something is rewriting our weapons at the molecular level," his science officer reported, his voice filled with panic. "It's impossible, but our cannons are now made of organic matter." Throughout the Federation fleet, the same thing was happening. Weapons became works of art, armor plating turned into gardens. The most fearsome military force in the galaxy was being transformed into something beautiful and harmless. Alex opened the communication channel again. "Admiral Krex, this is your final warning. Withdraw your forces now, or we will be forced to take more direct action." Krex's pride would not let him retreat. "All ships, ram that vessel. If we can't shoot it, we'll destroy it with our hulls." The Federation ships began moving toward the Redemption at full speed. Alex sighed and nodded to Maya. "Disable them," he ordered. Maya's hands moved over her controls like a pianist playing a masterpiece. The Redemption reached out with its quantum manipulators, touching each Federation ship in turn. One by one, the attacking vessels stopped moving. Their engines had been transformed into crystalline sculptures. Their navigation systems had become wind chimes that played beautiful music. 100 warships hung motionless in space, no longer capable of violence. Down on the planet's surface, the Thylorians watched in amazement as the fires in their city went out. The human ship had somehow reversed the damage, restoring their buildings and healing their wounded. Elder Thyses felt tears of joy running down his face. "Who are they?" he whispered. Alex heard the question through the ship's sensors and answered, We are the children of Earth, we are humanity, and we have returned. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On every world, in every system, the same message was repeated. The humans have returned. On Nexus Prime, Dr. Lisa Park watched the emergency session of the Federation Council. The alien leaders were in chaos, arguing loudly about what to do. Some wanted to mobilize the entire fleet. Others suggested negotiation. "This is impossible," shouted Chancellor Vex, the leader of the Zentauri. "Humans were primitive when they disappeared. They couldn't have developed such technology." "Primitive?" came a new voice from the chamber's speakers. "That's not very polite." Every eye in the council chamber turned to the center of the room, where a hologram was forming. It was a tall human woman with silver hair and blue eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform that seemed to glow with its own light. "I am President Helen Carter of the United Human Colonies," the hologram announced, "and I think it's time we had a talk." The council chamber erupted in shouts and demands. How had the human gotten past their security? How was she projecting herself into their most secure location? Carter raised her hand, and instantly the chamber fell silent. Some unknown force had taken away the alien's ability to speak. "For 1,000 years we have watched you," Carter continued. "We have seen how you treat the smaller species. We have witnessed your cruelty and your greed. This ends now." She gestured, and the chamber's walls became transparent, showing images from across the galaxy, enslaved species working in mines, destroyed worlds that had refused to pay tribute, children taken from their families to serve in alien armies. "You have forgotten what it means to be civilized," Carter said. "You rule through fear and force. You have turned the galaxy into a prison." Chancellor Vex found his voice returning. "What do you want?" "Peace," Carter replied simply. "Justice, freedom for all species. The Federation will dissolve itself and allow each world to govern itself. Those who have been enslaved will be freed. Those who have been robbed will be compensated. And if we refuse?" Carter smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then you will learn why humanity survived when you thought we were extinct. You will discover what 1,000 years of evolution can accomplish." The hologram began to fade. "You have 1 week to decide. Choose wisely." As the image disappeared, the council chamber remained silent. Every alien leader was thinking the same thing. How had humanity become so powerful? Far away on the bridge of the Redemption, Alex Turner watched the Thylorian cities rebuilding themselves. The human ship's technology was helping the gentle aliens repair the damage the Federation had caused. "Captain," Maya reported, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Dozens of species are asking for our help. They want to be free." Alex nodded. "Send word to the fleet. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity really stands for." The age of Federation tyranny was ending. The age of human justice was about to begin. The Federation's response to humanity's ultimatum was swift and brutal. Within hours of President Carter's message, every human colony world came under attack. The Federation had mobilized their entire military force, pulling ships from every corner of the galaxy for what they called Operation Cleansing. Admiral Krex stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Galaxy's Fury. His old ship was still floating helplessly in space above the Thylorian world, its weapons turned into flowers. The humiliation burned in his chest like acid. "Sir, we have confirmation," reported his communications officer. 2 million ships are moving toward human space. This is the largest military operation in galactic history." Krex nodded grimly. "Good, we'll wipe them out completely this time. No more surprises." The Federation fleet was massive beyond imagination. Warships stretched across space like a metal ocean. Each vessel carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Together they could turn entire worlds into dust, but the humans were ready. General Marcus Webb stood in the command center of the human battle station New Hope. The station was hidden in an asteroid field near Earth, invisible to all sensors. Marcus was a veteran of countless battles, his face marked with scars from the early days of the Exodus. All colonies report ready, announced his aide, Colonel Lavra Price. The defense grid is active. Marcus looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Federation fleet. Red dots filled the screen like angry stars. Any normal military force would be terrified by such numbers. Marcus smiled. Lavra, send a message to all ships. Tell them it's time to remind the galaxy why humans don't give up. The first battle took place in the Proxima system, where a human colony had been growing for 800 years. The Federation arrived expecting to find a few primitive settlements. Instead, they found something that changed everything. Lieutenant Colonel Nina Hayes commanded the Human Defense Force. She had only 12 ships against a Federation fleet of 50,000. The odds should have been impossible. All ships, remember? Your training, Nina said calmly over the communication channel. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who dreams of being free. The Federation fleet opened fire first. Millions of plasma bolts and missiles filled the space around the human ships. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but the human ships didn't try to dodge. They didn't even raise shields. Instead, they did something that made the Federation officers question their own eyes. The ships began to change. Their hulls flowed like liquid metal, reshaping themselves into completely new forms. Weapons fire that should have destroyed them was absorbed and transformed into pure energy. What are they doing? Admiral Krex demanded over the communication channel. He got his answer when the human ships began to fire back. But they weren't using normal weapons. Instead, they were using the Federation's own attacks against them. The plasma bolts that had been meant to destroy the human ships were now being launched back at the Federation fleet. The missiles that should have exploded against human hulls were now seeking out their original launchers. Impossible. Krex shouted. They're using our own weapons against us. But that was only the beginning. The human ships began to demonstrate abilities that seemed to break the laws of physics. They moved through solid asteroids as if they were made of air. They appeared in multiple places at once. They transformed space itself around them. One human ship, the Phoenix, flew directly into the middle of the Federation formation. Thousands of enemy vessels surrounded it, firing from every direction. The human ship should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, it began to sing. The sound came from nowhere and everywhere at once. It was beautiful and terrible, like the voice of creation itself. As the song filled space, the Federation ships began to change. Their weapon systems shut down one by one. Their engines stopped working. Their life support systems began producing flowers instead of air. Within minutes, 50,000 warships were floating helplessly in space. The human ship, Phoenix, had not fired a single shot. It had simply sung, and the enemy fleet had been defeated. Similar battles were taking place across the galaxy. Each time, the Federation forces outnumbered the humans by thousands to one. Each time, the humans won without killing a single enemy. Soldier, on the water world of Aquaria, human ships turned the ocean itself into a weapon. Federation vessels found themselves trapped in walls of water that rose kilometers into the sky, above the crystal world of Gemini. Human forces transformed the planet's gravity fields. Federation ships found themselves pulled down to the surface, where they landed gently in fields of soft grass. In the Vega system, human defenders used time itself as a weapon. Federation ships found themselves moving so slowly that centuries would pass before they could fire their weapons. The most incredible battle took place above Earth itself. The Federation had sent their most powerful fleet there, determined to destroy humanity's homeworld once and for all. Admiral Krex led the assault personally, commanding 2 million ships from the bridge of the galaxy's fury. As they approached Earth, he expected to find a dead world with maybe a few hidden bases. Instead, he found paradise. Earth was not the empty ruin the Federation remembered. The planet glowed with life and beauty. Vast cities covered the continents, their buildings reaching toward the sky like crystal trees. The ocean sparkled with colors that had no names. How is this possible? Krex whispered. His science officer was studying the sensor readings with amazement. Sir, the planet is alive, not just the life forms on it. The planet itself is conscious. As if responding to his words, Earth began to defend itself. The planet's magnetic field reached out into space, gently pushing the Federation ships away. The aurora that danced around the poles expanded, wrapping around enemy vessels like ribbons of light. All ships opened fire. Krex ordered the Federation fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, antimatter bombs. Enough firepower to shatter a moon was directed at the blue and green world below, but Earth was no longer just a planet. It was something more. The weapon's fire was absorbed harmlessly into the planet's magnetic field. The energy was transformed and sent back as pure light that filled the space around the Federation fleet. In that light, the alien soldiers saw visions of what Earth had become. They saw humans and aliens working together in peace. They saw children of dozens of species playing together in parks. They saw a world where no one was enslaved, where no one went hungry, where everyone was free. Many of the Federation soldiers began to cry. They had never seen anything so beautiful. "Sir," reported Krex's communications officer, "we're receiving surrender requests from across the fleet. Our own ships are refusing to fight." Krex felt his world crumbling around him. How could this be happening? The Federation was the strongest force in the galaxy. They ruled through fear and power. How could they be defeated by songs and flowers? "This is impossible," he said, more to himself than to his crew. "No," came a voice from behind him. "This is human." Krex spun around to see a figure materializing on his bridge. It was a human man, tall and strong, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He wore no armor, carried no weapons, but his presence filled the entire bridge. "I am Commander Jake Morrison," the human said. "I think it's time we talked." Krex reached for his weapon, but found his hand would not move. Not because he was paralyzed, but because he no longer wanted to fight. The anger that had driven him for so long was fading, replaced by something he had never felt before. Hope. "How?" Krex asked. "How did you become so powerful?" Jake smiled. "We didn't become powerful. We became human. There's a difference." "Oh." Around Earth, the Federation fleet was surrendering. 2 million ships, the largest military force in galactic history, had been defeated without a single shot being fired in anger. The age of Federation rule was ending. The age of human peace was about to begin. 6 months after the Federation's surrender, the galaxy was a very different place. The massive prison ships that had carried millions of slaves were now flying them home to their families. The tribute fleets that had stolen wealth from countless worlds were returning everything they had taken. Ambassador Carol Foster stood in what had once been the Federation Council chamber on Nexus Prime. The room had been transformed from a place of fear into a hall of cooperation. Representatives from hundreds of species sat together, working to build something that had never existed before. A truly free galaxy. Carol was a diplomat who had spent decades learning about every species in the galaxy. She had studied their cultures, their languages, their hopes and dreams. Now she was helping them create a new government based on respect instead of fear. "The Altarian delegation has agreed to share their medical knowledge," Carol announced to the assembly. "In return, the Centauri will provide them with advanced farming techniques." Around the chamber, aliens who had been enemies for centuries were learning to work together. The Vorthak, once the Federation's military rulers, were now helping to build hospitals on worlds they had previously attacked. The Xanthari, who had controlled all trade, were teaching smaller species how to manage their own economies. It was not easy. There were still arguments and disagreements. Some species found it hard to trust after centuries of oppression. But slowly, surely, the galaxy was healing. Dr. Sam Mitchell walked through the halls of the new Galactic Academy on Earth. The building was a marvel of human and alien architecture combined. Spires of crystal grew next to walls of living metal. Gardens floated in the air next to laboratories that seemed to bend space itself. Sam was the Academy's first director, and he watched with pride as students from across the galaxy learned together. Young Thylorians studied art with human children. Vorthok teenagers learned about peace from elderly Xanthari philosophers. Species that had never met before were becoming friends. "Dr. Mitchell," called out a young voice. He turned to see a small Altarian girl running toward him. Her blue skin was marked with the silver patterns that showed she was gifted in mathematics. "Yes, Zeta?" Sam asked kindly. "I solved the quantum equation you gave us," she said excitedly. "But I did it differently than the humans would." "I used Altarian logic patterns," Sam smiled. "Show me." Zeta activated a holographic display and showed her work. Sam's eyes widened as he saw the solution. It was brilliant, using methods that no human had ever thought of. "This is wonderful," Sam said. "You've just discovered a new way to manipulate quantum fields. This could help us build better ships, better computers, better everything." The little girl beamed with pride. This was why the Academy existed. Not to teach alien students to think like humans, but to help everyone learn from each other. In the Academy's main hall, a group of human and alien children were working together on a project. They were building a small starship using techniques from a dozen different species. The result was something that was better than any single species could have created alone. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the space station Unity, watching ships arrive from every corner of the galaxy. The station orbited Earth, serving as the headquarters for the new Galactic Commonwealth. Jake had aged in the 6 months since the Federation's defeat, but he looked peaceful. The weight of 1,000 years of hiding was finally off his shoulders. "Captain," came a voice behind him. He turned to see Admiral Krex approaching. The former Federation commander looked very different now. His scales had lost their dark military polish and returned to their natural bright green. His eyes, once filled with anger, now showed only determination to make amends. "Admiral," Jake said with a smile, "how are the reconstruction efforts going?" Krex's voice was humble, better than expected. "My people are working hard to repair the damage we caused. We freed over 1 million slaves this month alone." "And how are your people adapting to the changes?" Krex was quiet for a moment. "It's difficult. We were taught that strength meant domination. Now we're learning that true strength means protection. Some of my soldiers are struggling with the concept." Jake nodded understandingly. "Change is never easy. But you're doing the right thing. I have to ask," Krex said. "Why didn't you destroy? US, you had the power, we would have done it to you." Jake looked out at the stars. "Because destruction never solves anything. It just creates more problems. We learned that lesson a long time ago." On the planet New Terra, Dr. Martha Stone was working on humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. She was developing medical treatments that could heal any injury, cure any disease, and extend the life of any species. The regeneration therapy is working perfectly, she reported to her team. "We can now restore lost limbs, repair damaged organs, even bring back the dead if we reach them quickly enough." Her assistant, Dr. Peter Kane, looked amazed. "We're essentially making death optional, not optional," Martha corrected. "Just delayed. Everyone should have the chance to live a full life, to see their children grow up, to contribute to their communities." The medical breakthroughs were just one part of humanity's gift to the galaxy. Human engineers were sharing technology that could terraform dead worlds, bringing them back to life. Human scientists were teaching other species how to travel between dimensions, opening up infinite new frontiers, but the most important gift was not technology. It was hope. On the former slave world of Kepler 442b, Elder Thyses stood in the rebuilt Great Library. The building was more beautiful than ever, its walls now decorated with art from hundreds of species. Children of all kinds played in the gardens outside, their laughter echoing through the halls. "They saved us," Thyses said to his granddaughter, a young Thylorian named Melody. "The humans could have ruled us just like the Federation did. Instead, they set us free." Melody looked up at her grandfather with wide, innocent eyes. "Will they always protect us?" "I think so," Thyses replied. "But more importantly, they're teaching us to protect ourselves, and to protect others who need help." The transformation of the galaxy was not just political or technological, it was spiritual. Species that had been enemies for millennia were learning to see each other as family. The strong were protecting the weak instead of exploiting them. The wise were teaching instead of hoarding knowledge. President Helen Carter stood in her office on Earth, looking at reports from across the galaxy. Every day brought new success stories. Former enemies working together, dead worlds brought back to life. Species that had been on the edge of extinction now thriving. "Madam President," came a voice from her communicator. "We're receiving a distress signal from the edge of the galaxy. It's from a species we've never encountered before." Carter immediately became alert. "What kind of distress?" "They're being attacked by something. The message is fragmentary, but it sounds like they're facing extinction." Carter stood up, her face grim with determination. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to help them." "All of it?" asked the voice. "All of it," Carter confirmed. No species should face extinction alone. Within hours, the largest rescue fleet in galactic history was assembled. Human ships, Vorthak vessels, Xanthari cruisers, and hundreds of other species ships flew together toward the unknown threat. They traveled through space. Jake Morrison thought about how far they had all come. 1,000 years ago, humanity had been forced to flee their homeworld. Now they were leading the galaxy's united species into the unknown, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The fleet emerged from hyperspace to find a species of crystalline beings under attack by machines that seemed to consume everything they touched. The enemy was unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. "All ships," Jake announced over the fleet communication system. "Remember why we're here. We're not just defending one species, we're defending the right of all life to exist." The battle was fierce, but the united galaxy fought as one. Humans used their quantum abilities to confuse the machines. Vorthak warriors provided raw strength. Xanthari strategists coordinated the attack. Thylorian artists found beauty even in battle, inspiring everyone to fight harder. In the end, the machines were defeated and the crystalline beings were saved. But more importantly, the galaxy had proven that they could work together against any threat. As the fleet returned home, Jake stood on his bridge and smiled. The galaxy was no longer a collection of competing species. It was a family united by the simple belief that everyone deserved to be free. The age of human exile was over. The age of galactic unity had begun.